we went home that day and I was sitting in the car out the front just sobbing. Like, he was inside and I was just bawling my eyes out. I was like, I just feel like my best friend doesn't even think I'm funny anymore. He doesn't like me. Like, we've gotten so close that we're actually so far apart.
The Imperfects invites you into a very safe place. A place where we share without judgment and drink heaps of vulnerability. Grab yourself a cup. This is the Vulnerability House.
It's a very relaxing environment with Jack from Inspired Unemployed, and there's lots to talk about. We've got the Vulnerability House cards here. Before Jack, we want to talk to you desperately, but before we do, we need to address the elephant in the room. For the first time ever on the Imperfects. Who knows why? For the first time ever, it's quite an occasion, really. Hugh is, from what I can tell, unironically wearing a backwards hat.
You kind of look like Tony Hawk, don't you reckon?
Yeah, he's done that before. Yeah, but even more in the hat.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
We probably won't have time to get to the Crocs, Hugh, but can we talk about the backwards, the backwards hat to start with?
My great fear when I decided to put the cap on backwards was that people would think it was a desperate attempt to try and speak to the youth and relate to have young people go, oh, I got Jack on. Oh, that guy's sick as well.
Yeah. Well, it's sort of like
Must be his mate.
Yeah. It's sort of like a kind of a good opportunity to get Jack's honest opinion. So like because you saw Hugh out the front and you just thought, that's Hugh. You've seen he's wearing a backwards hat.
Yeah.
You assume it's not a joke.
Was it backwards
He
outside?
turned it around as I was walking up. But I reckon it looks great. You're not wearing it that cool. Like, it should be a bit lower. There's like hair poking out the front like a fringe.
Yeah.
But it still looks great, yeah.
No, my hair was really bad. So I ran out of product. I've got this product that I wear, Jack, that makes my hair look a lot thicker than it really is. It's a spray anyone can buy and it just makes your hair look twice as thick as it is. It's amazing.
Do we want to talk about the real issue?
Oh, hair loss?
Yeah.
Oh, I've talked about it
Because
so
I'm
much.
getting worried.
Are you really?
I'm starting to recede a little bit. It's kind of freaking me out.
Oh.
Where are you worried?
I'm getting the McDonald's thing at the front leaders.
I think you're okay, but I know I have the same problem. Yeah. Well, Hugh and I both take hair loss tablets to make sure. If I didn't, I'd be.
You reckon they work?
Oh,
absolutely.
Really?
I was nearly bald when I was 20.
You reversed it.
I reversed
Really?
it.
From tablets?
Yep.
Wow, I heard they're a hoax, but obviously
No.
not.
Well, I mean, it's worth saying for people, because we will get a lot of messages, I know. So the tablet is called finasteride, but you got to go to your doctor, you got to get a prescription, and there are potential side effects, so worth looking into that before
The doctor actually said, the doctor actually said to me, his words were, it could, I can't remember the doctor said this, but he said, now these tablets, they could take the sting out of your ding.
What?
Oh.
That's what he said, and I didn't know what he meant. I went,
I don't know
okay.
if there's any way to make that fun.
No.
Yeah.
The sting out of your ding.
He meant what he meant to say was like that potentially if you were to have an erection, it may not be as
Erect.
yeah.
Wow.
I was going to say powerful.
I think if you've already said erection, erect is not a big deal.
Anyway, so I didn't have the hairspray, and I thought I need to wear a hat because my hair just looks terrible today. But like, I'm just not going to wear it.
How are you, Jack? It's a real thrill it's a real thrill to have you here.
And likewise, I listen to you guys a fair bit, honestly. And I think whatever you just want to say up front, really respect what you do and how vulnerable and open you guys get. It's such an important thing for people to just take that stigma away from, especially men, talking about this stuff. So,
Awesome.
So I love it.
Thank you. That's awesome,
That's
Jack.
lovely.
Getting
Yeah.
emotional already.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we could say ditto as well to what you guys do.
Yeah.
I think like the stuff that you guys have done is of course like a lot of it is comedy. Well, it's mainly comedy and like silliness, but I think what comes with that is a lot of vulnerability as well, which I'd love to talk about at some point.
So, I mean, the Inspired Unemployed has approximately 7 squillion followers on social media, which is a lot. They do incredible skits, so unbelievably funny, and it's a big part of Australian culture now, which is such an incredible achievement. Jack does it with his best mate, Falcon, who we will hopefully talk a bit about today. I think, when we had the idea of doing this podcast about 5 years ago now, it was really the premise that people will portray the perfect life but there's so much going on under the surface. And I just think today's guest couldn't be a better fit for, you look from the outside, your life is perfect.
And it is. I have no insecurities.
Okay.
I don't even know why I'm here.
Great.
Cool. Wrap it up. Yeah. Great. Thanks.
And your television show, In Practical?
It's a tongue twister. Impractical Jokers.
Yeah. So that is the loudest I've ever laughed in my life to any television ever. Legitimately. I've never... it's uproarious laughter. It is unbelievable. When I actually met...
That's on Paramount Plus.
Yeah. So I met Dom and Falks at a party end of last year, and I didn't know they were going to be there. And I sort of turned around and I introduced them, and I was a bit rattled by it. And my default was to tell them over and over and over again how much like a television show. And at start they liked it. And then I noticed them sort of kind of going, they've got to get away from this bloke.
That's when you turn your hat backwards. I swear I'm cooler than this. I'm not.
And they came back.
But no, thank you. That's great to hear. And that's from so America has its own show, Impractical Jokers. We just did the Australian version. It's the same format. And the format is insanely good. I wish we came up with it. We didn't. But yeah, it's so. We just finished season 2 as well.
Great.
There's more.
Yeah, there's more. There's more.
Let's get to the cards because they're sitting there, they're staring at us.
So I just pick one.
So for those who don't know, the Vulnerability House, we have this deck of cards, and on each card that's in the middle of the table is a question written on it, which you'll choose 3, and then 3 you'll lay out, and then if one of those questions invoke some form of vulnerability or memory from your life that you're comfortable to share, then that would be great. And if none of them are good, just keep picking a card until you like one.
What if I get to the end?
Then we're fucked.
Okay, here we go. All right. First one. What insecurities have held you back? What fear would you like to be free of? How has money impacted your relationships?
Oh, the money one is, I dare you.
No. Not a chance. Hasn't changed a thing. Oh, God. One insecurities have held you back. What fear would you like to be free of? I'd say, what fear would you like to be free of?
What fear would you like to be free of?
Oh, a few. Probably, the first thing that comes to mind always is, and that I myself go through every day, is the fear of not being relevant.
Whoa.
Which is, I was going to say it sounds crazy, but it probably doesn't sound that crazy.
It doesn't sound crazy, but it's also you don't hear people say that out loud much.
I'm like, my ego doesn't want to tell you guys.
No.
A lot of people listen to your podcast.
Yeah.
But no, it's a genuine fear, every day.
Really?
If I'm not productive, it's a fear, massive fear. And oh man, there's so many ways to go about this, but where it stems from, because I'm still trying to work it out, because I try and work it out all the time. Why do I care? Why do I care? Why do I want to be relevant? And what am I chasing or craving? What's wrong with me? It's it feels like it should be such a bad trait, but at the same time, it's probably a good trait because it keeps you striving. But I think it's probably stemmed from definitely my childhood and having ADD and had bad eczema when I was young, really bad, bandages head to toe bad. And it made me do,
How old?
I would have been up until from 2 to 14.
Really?
Yeah, but around, my child, it was bad. It was hospital and stuff. And I didn't know at the time, obviously, but looking back, it's the biggest blessing. I just did a lot of things to distract myself. So I would get home from school and I would just have to go riding a bike or skating or surfing, anything I could do to get my mind off of my skin, and just because I would get home and sit on the floor and scratch until I was bleeding everywhere. Yeah. And I wake up in the morning, my bed sheets are stuck to my body and stuff. Bad. It's such a traumatic thing to think back of. It's just so it just grosses me out to think of. I know that feeling so. Yeah. Oh, and just if there was a dog around, I remember just so vividly being at mum and dad's friends' houses and laying on the couch while they're make them sound like bad parents. They're not at all. I calls them hell, and they're the best people in the world. So caring, but I mean, just like waiting for the dinner to end, laying on the couch, and if there's a dog around, just like the torture because I'm allergic to fur.
Oh, right.
So your whole body, you're just tearing it up, and there's no
God.
escape. You can't get in the hot shower because it took me half an hour to get into the hot shower because it was it burnt so much, burnt your skin. Couldn't surf. So like until I was about 14, 15, and all my friends and family did was surf because we grew up in a surf town. So I'd have to lie my whole childhood about like not being able to surf. I'd say, just make any excuse up, and then it would be like, I just feel like such a loser, you know?
It's a really the eczema is something that I've heard of eczema, but to be honest, I didn't really know it could get that bad.
Yeah, it's an easy one to overlook because it's not life threatening. But
Is it on your face as well? Or just
but no, not so bad. It was pretty much everywhere but. And I could get away with it at school because it's more where your clothes are, everywhere your clothes are, like your feet especially, all your joints and stuff. But so the eczema made me do a lot of things, made me just be super crazily productive and not let myself sit still.
Yeah.
And I think on top of that, I was always very competitive. So I do like some people are like, fuck you, sound like a wanker saying this, but they're like, you're just good at everything. And I'm like, no, I've actually I will sit there until my eyes are bleeding playing the piano to distract myself. That's how I got good. I didn't just get good because I was born good.
So it's like the eczema motivated you to be doing something to distract you from the eczema.
That's like I've been learning a lot more about this on my own over the last few years. But yeah, and I think being competitive and doing a lot and just always wanting to just strive more has probably built this, this fear of not being good at things, or wanting to be. I don't know. It's so hard to tie back. And then also, I guess with the whole Instagram thing over the last few years, not being relevant, we're tradies. So we don't have any followers or anything. Didn't even know what Instagram was really. Started, really building this thing up and then posting daily and building this community. And we're like, oh my God, this is amazing. And it just kept growing and growing and growing. We got to like 1 million followers in 12 months or something crazy. And then once, another 2 years went by, we kind of started feeling a bit like lost or whatever. And then with the TV show, for example, then the podcast and the beer, it took a lot of time away from us posting daily, which then felt like our community was lagging, which then it's like, oh no, we're not relevant. Like we're losing touch of our audience and fans. And it just, I remember clearly Faux and I being it's probably the very good point of our career, maybe last year. And we had a lot of good things going on, but us internally, both of us, we would sit in the office and for months and be very down on ourselves. And it's so no one would ever think that or know that. But we would seriously be like, dude, every day we'd be like, what are we doing? Like we've just cooked it. We've come so far and we're just letting it all go.
Really?
And to look back at that, it's just ridiculous. And then that December, we got told we had the fastest growing beer in Australian history, and we got number 2 on Spotify for our podcast. And our videos were still doing well, but in our brain, that's what people saw. And it's so funny to think, I'm not even saying this to feel sorry for myself or anything. We genuinely were so down, like we had just lost everything. We're like, and how is that to have so much and just feel like you're so worthless? Like I just thought like, fuck, we've lost our community. Like no one cares anymore. We're not like, we just don't have that support. I don't know how to explain it, but it just felt so lost.
Is it something to do with the fact that for you, success looked like posting every day and the Instagram account just going berserk every single day? Is that what success looked like? And the other stuff was like
100%. But those things are like, so that was like that was instant dopamine. Like you could film something and it's out the next day and you're like, bang, there's that hit. Now I guess 4 years of getting that hit was so addictive. Like every day you're getting flooded with good comments and messages and you're like on this crazy trajectory. And then when you start to take that 100% away from your videos, you go, okay, let's do a podcast and a beer and look down the TV route. That takes a year to do. And then they see the results in a year.
And even when it's going well, people aren't messaging you every time you have a sip of your beer.
No, exactly. And the podcast, so you guys will know how hard is it to get like it's so amazing people on the street and stuff. But I guess for us, it was so.
Your bar's pretty high for like the bar you've got for engagement and people giving you feedback is extremely high.
Probably, yeah, and it's probably our own worst enemy. And I was so addicted to the skits and stuff, and I guess we wanted these other things, but weren't used to them taking 6 months to make, even longer. And then the result coming out after, just doing, I just felt like I was doing nothing. I was like, but I was actually we were working twice as hard. And and then, oh man, like that stemmed to like panic attacks and just like.
Last year?
Last year. Yeah.
Do you remember the first one you had by any chance?
Oh, I didn't know what anxiety was. I thought I was the opposite of anxiety. Like no idea until 2018. I had a bad breakup in Canada. I was traveling around doing a snow season, and we just weren't on good terms. We were not healthy, and I was partying a bit too much and managing this relationship, trying to keep someone happy and thinking everything was my fault, and looking back it wasn't. So I was playing, like I just felt like I was such a bad person, and then partying, and it was just all building up without me knowing. I had no idea. It was just building up to this crazy volcano about to erupt, and it did. It erupted, and I remember waking up one morning after partying and my girlfriend and I fighting at the time, and just completely going blank. Like there was a sheet of glass between me and the world. Really? This is hands down the scariest moment I've ever had in my whole life. And I looked into it a lot, and what I could figure out, it was like depersonalization. I think it's like your body going into fight or flight, and it just puts you in this crazy safety mode, which actually scares the hell out of you. And I seriously, it was like having no reality. I was conscious, but I was like, I wasn't even in this fucking, I couldn't see the world clear. It was so scary.
Were you by yourself, or was she there?
She was there, but I was explaining it to her, and I just felt like no one knew. I was just like, I'm so alone. I felt like I was so alone with no help. And I would just Google all day and just be in this, I'd tell my mates, they just couldn't, like, how could you comprehend that? Like, I would just sound like, I feel like I sound like a crazy person, you know?
So this lasted for quite a while.
Yeah, quite ages. And it got to a point where I was running in the snow. It was like snowing minus 30 degrees. And I was running to get out of my head, like just running down the street in my joggers, like at midnight, anytime, just because I couldn't sit with my own. I was so scared I wasn't going to be normal again. And that's where my anxiety started. And then I did work on that for a long time. I went 12 months without drinking or partying, or, I went real healthy. Gradually started to get myself back to, where I was. And then it wasn't till last year or the year before where I started having panic attacks again. And they were stem from partying for sure, and a big build up of work, and not letting myself relax at all. I remember I just listened to one of your guys' podcasts with you go on Q and Hamish McDonald. Hamish. And he was saying that he sometimes, when he finishes a long period of work or something taxing on your mind and body and a lot of energy, he can just sometimes take up to a week or two to relax. And I wish I freaking heard that at the time, because Fax and I we put a lot of pressure on ourselves, a lot. I do. I'm more of like probably the annoying dad figure in the relationship of me and Matt. Like I definitely am. He knows that, we talk about it all the time. I'm like the annoying boss. And we'd get home from a day, say podcasting, doing a million Zooms and performing or whatever, and we'd get home and I'd go back onto my laptop until like 11 p.m. every day. And I'd just be like, blah, like I'm not doing enough and non-stop. And then one period came last year where we'd get off a beer Zoom. I think we were getting sued by some bloody company. And then we got onto a podcast Zoom to talk about that. And then you get onto the TV one, and then you get off that and your manager's calling you saying, oh, you need to get these scripts ready. We need to film this thing today, blah, blah. And then we had about 8 hours of that back to back. You would change from being funny to then you're on a court case hearing, and then you change back to that to trying to get scripts ready for a client. And then your brain's just, and then Instagram goes off and you're like, oh, okay, I've got to reply to these people. I've got to get this edit ready for tonight. You spend 4 hours editing your bloody video every day as well. My brain was just so multitasked and muddled up. I had so much brain fog. It just built up so much. And I got off this Zoom, shut the laptop, and bang. It was like my whole body just fucking collapsed on me. Like just fully limp. Pins and needles talking about.
Really?
Yeah, like You guys had panic attacks before?
Yeah, I've had one.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Scariest thing in the world.
Terrifying. Yeah.
I don't know how to explain. It's like you're being hit by a truck.
Yeah. I remember feeling very faint, like everything was going really white, and my hands and arms were like tingling, heaps, pins and needles, and then I just like heart racing, and then just like lost all control over my body and just kind of collapsed in the shower. And it was in the family home. We had a beautiful golden retriever, and the golden retriever like ran in because I was like trying to claw myself out of the shower, out of the water, and just couldn't actually move. And the golden retriever like snuggled up to me, and I just hugged the dog for like, would have been 45 minutes, I reckon.
Wow.
Just on the ground, like crying, shaking, everything, like all emotions, just like complete loss of control and terror. And I had no idea what they were at that point. Similar to you, probably.
Did you even know what it was?
No.
You think you're going to die, hey?
Yeah. I thought maybe it felt too emotional. This is weird thing to say. It felt too emotional to be a heart attack or something for me because there was so much emotion coming with it. It was like an outpouring of everything that I'd felt. It was like just dumping everything, but in a non-healthy way. Like it was in this, like, it's hard I don't know about you, but once you start to learn what it is, it's hard to go back to what it was like when you didn't know what it was, but it just felt like an avalanche of everything coming out at once.
Do you reckon because you bottled it up for so long? And you just suppressed it?
Yeah, basically, bottled up. And I remember it was ruminating about my relationship, the woman I'm married to now, Sophie. It was early days in the relationship, and a thought entered my mind that she might leave me and not like me anymore. And and then it was like this like avalanche of thoughts of how useless you are and what, of course you will. And it just stemmed from there. Did you, I've got so many questions to ask you about your things. But
it's kind of similar.
Was it a similar thing? Yeah.
I didn't know, I've had many since. It's getting a lot better now. And most of them, are self brought on from like nervous system just being bad in shock. But this first one was like, I had nothing to do. It was purely just work and not letting myself rest and go out on the weekends and then work sometimes 12 hours a day non-stop, and when you're sleeping thinking about the next videos you want to make or whatever, and not letting myself, if I had half a day to do nothing, which my mates could do happily, I just would be like, what? I'm not wasting half a day. Like I've got shit to do. Like, and I love my work. I want to do these things, even though I get really stressed sometimes, but I still want to do them. The way I explain it's like, I feel like your whole body just goes into, just shuts down. My throat starts like closing up and my whole body just goes numb. And the feeling is like the thing I can't explain, where it feels like you are just so alone. Like you feel like no one can help you. I was laying on the couch, my mum, so I had one bad one, and then that was at the office, and went to mum's because like it's down the road, and I felt like, oh my God, safe space. I didn't even tell Falcon, I work with him every day. He's my best friend. We tell each other everything. And I don't know why I don't tell him in the moment. And I've had him since, and I love him so much, but I just can't. I just feel like I don't want to bring someone down, but it's not even that. It's like, I don't know how you could ever help me. And I don't want to, you'll probably start freaking out and you'll freak me out. So I just like, be normal. I don't even say that. I just let it happen. And then this one, I remember going to mum's after the first one. It was like half an hour later. And then I went to mum's and I was like, oh my God, I freaking hope this thing's passing. And then bang, I felt it coming on, and it's like, and I really try and fight it, which is the worst thing to do. The best thing I've learned is to surrender and just go, come on, hit me, let's go, let's be best friends, let's sit together. And I would, when you fight it, that's when it gets scary, because you're telling yourself all these things like, oh my God, I'm going to die, when it's no, it's going to pass with time. But in that moment, I feel like mentally I'm pretty strong most of the time. And I'm telling you from my experience anyways, like, you can't tell yourself anything in that moment. You are so alone, and you genuinely think that the world's ending. Like, there's no out. You feel like you can't get out. I don't know, it'd be relatable to like a bad trip on mushrooms or something, where you just think you're losing your mind. That's how it feels like you're not coming out of this. And even though you're saying, nah, it's all good, just time, but you genuinely don't think it's going to end. That's how I have felt anyway.
It sounds so scary.
Fucking petrified. It's so scary, but it's a sign. You just go, I just know now it's a sign. It's from my mental health, like my body. It's just like saying, dude, slow down. And I know I can feel it coming on now. If it does, I haven't had one in months, and I can prevent it a lot more now with just knowing it's coming and be like, okay, cool, chill. And just saying, yeah, come on, if you want to hit me, just come hit me, it's fine. Like I'm right here, like it's all good. Let's sit down, have a cup of tea, get in the Vulnerabilitea House, have a chat, turn a hat backwards, and it's all good.
Which is kind of like, I mean, kind of bring it back to like your answer to the card, like wanting to be free of, it's sort of it's a tough situation where you've got this fear of losing relevance. And it sounds like, of course, like you need to work really hard. A lot of the stuff that people don't see, all the meetings and the writing and the editing and whatever it is, you enjoy most of it, but it's a lot to do. And so there's probably a fear. I really relate to it, not in exactly the same way, but the sense of like, this is the time. I can't take the foot off the accelerator now because this is the opportunity. And even if you're overwhelmed and overworked, you just think like, yeah, but if we slow down now,
I know
we could ruin it.
Yeah. And that's the shame of this day and age, right? Like to lose relevance is so much easier than it was because the attention span is gone.
Yeah.
You know? And people can cling on to other things a lot easier, which who cares? It doesn't matter.
But it sounds like to me, and I certainly don't want to psychologize you at all, but I know what it feels like. Well, the three of us do, the four of us do in here. We know what it feels like to find the thing that you really love doing. And so it's actually maybe more about the dream will be taken away from you. It's like, I love doing what I do, but if I don't keep pushing through all the hard things, then people will stop listening and we won't be able to do the thing that we love doing anymore. But I think like that seems like it's tied to the relevance as well.
You love doing this so much. You would hate to not be able to do it.
Not be able to, exactly.
Which would probably then go down to because no one's listening because you haven't posted for so long, maybe.
Yeah.
Which could possibly happen. But no, I agree. I think I try and tell myself it's worse sometimes than what it is. Like, I must have so many deep insecurities that I just want this validation. Then sometimes I'm like, well, I just love it. I love it. But then why am I still chasing so much? Like, what is going on? And then lately I've been getting back to making, I'm like, said to Falcon, like, I'll make the skits. You work on like the creative of, other jobs that we got going on. And then I'm just like the whole way down here on the plane, I've wrote 4 scripts and I'm just so excited. It makes me so excited, like so much joy.
Yeah.
But then I wonder if is that the joy because we're going to be relevant again or like not again, but like keep maintaining our audiences. I still haven't figured out if I'm in it for the right reason.
I think watching you guys do what you do, I think you definitely are.
Yeah.
I think there's so much joy in it. Like it's just, you can feel it for sure.
And also, how could you not get addicted to complete strangers or hundreds of thousands of people telling you how great it is and how much they love it, how much joy it brings them? How could that not be addictive? Like there's,
it's a bit, yeah.
I can't, not many people would be able to put that out into the world and then not pay attention or not get addicted to the positive feedback that they get from that. It would be almost like, I reckon one of the reasons you're so good at doing what you do is because you're so in touch with what people like and what they need. It's like you've got incredible social skills and incredible emotional skills. So that comes with also being, it's hard not to get addicted to that.
For sure. And that's another thing of like purpose and stuff. Like just how, like you guys would know, like how nice it is when someone comes up and they're like, I love they genuinely love what you do. Oh, I've had this girl come up to us the other day with a boyfriend. She pretty much dragged her and she's like, my boyfriend hasn't spoke for months and he was like in a bad way. And you guys talking on the podcast, making it okay for guys our age that are like, cool or whatever, what people think.
Just dudes like me and Phelps and the boys.
Old Tony Hawk.
I think old Tony Hawk. The operative word.
And then it is like, that's it. That's why. That's such a beautiful, making people smile. I would genuinely just think I might be sad if I don't make people smile every day. And also there's probably ego, 100%. Like it feels good to be validated. Like it's probably human nature or my insecurities. Who knows? But it just feels so good. But then I still wonder because I always think, grass is greener. And it's not even that. It's in relationships as well. Like I get bored of things quick and I want to move on. And like I always chasing. It's even with travels. Like I would be somewhere and be like, I'm not like, we need to go to the next place. And we get here, I'm like, oh, but when we get to that waterfall, this is going to be epic. We'll stay there for 3 days. And we get there, I'm like, oh, what about this one? We'll leave in 2 hours. And like, what is that? Like, that's such a bad way to live, like not being present. So I'm working on that as well.
So just on relationships, you just said that's an issue with relationships. So you like romantic relationships or just with mates, or like are you, I mean, I feel like it'd be an interesting one for you in your situation of like extremely famous, very well known, hugely popular with so many people. Like dating, what happens there? Like how does that work for you as far, or maybe you don't feel comfortable talking about that?
No, it's fine. It's, so it's very similar in dating. I'm so addicted to productivity. So when I'm not doing that and moving forward and productive, I just get crazily itchy feet, and I just don't want to. I can't see anything else but going forward. So I think it's happened with my relationships where it's got to a point, and I've realized I'm like, no, like when that thought comes over your mind where you might know you're falling out of love, and it's the worst feeling in the freaking world when you're in so much denial. You're like, nah, it's fine. It's
a great movie called Anomalisa, which is like a sort of like a stop motion animation movie that Charlie Kaufman wrote, and it's a whole movie essentially about that feeling. Yeah, wow. It's incredible. About that feeling of like when you're in love, and then bang, one day it's like, nah.
Oh,
it disappears.
You can't change it.
Yeah,
I believe like you could with a lot of work and in yourself. But yeah, I would get to these moments in relationships where it'd hit a year or two or less or whatever, and I'd just be like, oh no, I can't. I just don't feel it the same. I just can't do it. Like I'm just always want to strive to like the best. If I have an opportunity, I just want to make the best out of that opportunity I can. And when people that I'm in relationships with kind of just don't have too much ambition, I'd really struggle to see eye to eye with them. Like I still love them and be friends with them and everything, but I just really struggle, and that's what tends to happen with previous relationships.
So you've mentioned partying a few times as a sign that potentially things were a bit out of control for you, or they certainly contributed to a decline in mental health. What does that actually look like for you at its worst, and when did you know that it was potentially a problem?
So it must be my nervous system just can't cope with how much my brain runs and partying. So like I have mates that party so much harder. But yeah, I know when it's coming because you just have, I don't know how to explain it, but like sometimes if I'm hungover, I'm either having panic attacks all day, and that happens often. Like I've had times where I drive home from Sydney just after a night out, and I'll have to pull over like 5 times and have numerous panic attacks. It's brutal. And then I know if I do party, because we own a beer company, it's pretty hard to like fully get away from. And I love having fun with my mates. I love it.
Do you do a zero alcohol?
Yes, we do the zero. Yeah. Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Which is good. You feel like you're drinking a beer. It's
I'm all into it at the moment.
It's amazing. Hey.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll know mentally before. So if I've had a great week and I'm happy with what I've done, I've been productive. It mostly comes down to productivity and not beating myself up internally. If I'm feeling good, I'm like, let's have a great night, and it's because I deserve it. But if you ever feel like you're partying for the sake of it, that's when I'll wake up and have panic attacks and be in a bad state, or if I have to back it up the next night. And if I'm not partying for a reason, if you're partying for pointless moments, which I just hate doing. I hate it so much. Like,
why do you hate it?
I just don't like. I love being productive, as I've said. Like, it's my favorite thing in the world, and I'm never productive when I drink. Like the next day, I'm never ever productive, and I only don't beat myself up if it was worth it that night, and I've been feeling good all week, had a productive week. Because if I didn't have the best week, and then I party because I had something on and I got a bit carried away, which always happens, wake up cringing, and then I don't get back on my game until Tuesday properly mentally, sometimes Wednesday. It's not, in my mind, like, it's just pure hell.
Yeah.
And I beat myself up, and then because I feel so guilty, that's when the panic starts, the panic attacks and stuff. They rarely happen when I'm in a good mood, because I'm like overseas. When you party overseas and there's no consequences, commitments, or responsibilities, you feel amazing. But push it too hard with things you should be doing that you're not to better your life. I just can't stand.
That is so familiar to me. I've got like my big group of mates from school. We have a thing go every year for like 3 days, three nights, I haven't been to the last like 2 or 3, and I was at a Bucks recently, and a couple of them were like, why don't you come anymore? And I had to be like brutally honest and say like, it's not, and I'm like, I don't want you guys to think it's you. I just can't do it anymore. Like I feel so guilty. This like it brings out like I have so much fun at the time and I can't stop. Like I really enjoy it. And I think similar to what you're talking about before, I have this thing, and I used to have it at like music festivals where I like couldn't stand still for too long. I'd be like, oh, I'll watch this band for a bit, but as soon as that starts to like, as soon as I feel it waning, I'm like, well, I got to drink more and like party more and move somewhere else. So the momentum doesn't stop.
For sure.
And I do it for way too long, for way too late. And then I feel like the worst version of myself for like, I was like a couple of my mates, it just doesn't seem to hit him.
I don't understand how that works.
Yeah. And I was like saying to one of them, how are you going? Because he's like, we're getting old, like it's harder to pull up. And I was like, what does it look like for you? Like how? And he's like, oh, some days I like it takes me to like Monday night to feel like good.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, it's been, if I do it, I reckon it takes me till like Friday to feel close to being myself again. And then it's like maybe another few days, like the following week, I'm talking like a week and a half to like, I can look myself in the mirror without thinking you're a piece of shit and nothing but guilt. And it reveals this inner disgust for myself and I can't shake it. And so I had to say to them, like, because I've got 2 boys, little kids, and I'm like, I can't do this and look at my kids. And like, I had this moment of like picking up my son and like spinning him around and it was just like pure joy. And if I go on a bender, I'll miss that. Like I won't get that moment, and I just cannot afford to lose them because there's not many, let's say I'm finite resource. So yeah, and it was a really interesting chat to have with my mates because, sorry, now I'm making it all about me.
No.
But they were so good about it. I expected them to think less of me, but they were like, another guy comes along and he finishes up at like 6, he has dinner and goes to bed. And he's like, you could come and you guys could go have dinner together and go to bed. And like, and they were so supportive and they're like, we just want you to be there because we love you and we want you to hang out with us.
So you put that pressure on yourself, like that everyone's going to hate you for not rocking up, you know?
Yeah. And I'm in my mind going, they don't want to be friends with me anymore because I don't go because I can't handle it. But they were like really supportive. But then I'm like, oh, this year it's coming up. And I'm like, do I have the inner strength to go and not?
That's what I was going to say. That's the difference between good mates and bad mates. If you tell them they should be so like, oh yeah, 100% do whatever's right for your mental health.
Yeah,
but
they were awesome.
Come and don't drink if you want, you know, whereas it's such an Australian stigma, isn't it? It's so bad.
That's such a good point, Jack. That's good difference between good mates and bad mates. It's so true. Because I think like the Australian thing would be like, you're all in or don't show up.
Yeah. That's what I thought that'd be like.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they were like, how can we change this to make it work for you? Which was
that's amazing.
The best. It was so good.
Because if they didn't, they just like your company.
Yeah.
And if they were like, nah, get fucked up with us, and that means they just like you when
you're not really you.
Or they just want you to be on their, because like, I've done it in the past heaps where I've just wanted people to be on my level partying, which means like that's my issue. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm that fucked up. I want you to get to my level. Like how bad is that? How rude is that? You know, it's horrible. People are just happy you're doing them. Don't force people to do anything.
Yeah.
Such a bad way to treat people, I think.
Absolutely.
Do you mind talking about your ADHD and how that sort of plays into your life? And if I don't know if you take medication or if you, did you get diagnosed young for that?
Well, I didn't young. I did when I was older. I did when I was about 20, actually. I got told like a lot of teachers, like non-stop. I used to get kicked out of classes like every day. I wasn't like the worst kid that got expelled, but I was always a big smart ass with ADD and didn't listen to a thing. I was in all the worst classes, like all of them. Principal told me to leave at the start of year 11. But yeah, then I got told at TAFE, I got kicked out of my TAFE class, like as plasterer. How bad is that? You know you're bad. You know you've got bad ADD if you're plastering TAFE class, where people in my class, I used to pick a dude up from the cop shop with a thing around his ankle. Swear, that's how bad my TAFE class was. It was bad. People were trying to stab people in my class, and
Really?
like often, yeah. It was in Lidcombe in Western Sydney, and I would go up there once a month. And I was the only kid that got kicked out of my class.
And you weren't stabbing?
No, I wasn't like a violent kid at all. I just didn't care. If it wasn't me learning about something I didn't want to learn about, I didn't care one bit. But then when it comes to something where I'm interested in, I'll have like focus you can't even explain, like laser. Like I can't do anything else. I'll just like do that nonstop. I think that's a big trait of ADD, right?
I think
if
so.
You have like laser focus on some things. But
if you're interested in it, yeah.
If you're interested, yeah, exactly. But anything else, you just talk to me. The teacher would talk to me. I'd just straight out the other ear. And I remember the teacher couldn't handle me because I didn't listen. I was just a smart ass. And then he sent me to this other lady. And then the other lady walked out on me, and then I had to get a third teacher. And then he's like, "Mate, you have the worst ADD I've seen in a lot of years." And then in Canada, I got diagnosed by a doctor. But it's not. But I've never been on medication once.
Okay,
which is. Do any of you guys have a form of it?
No.
No. Oh, what a life.
Well, I think that, I mean, there's. I'm reading actually a book called ADHD 2.0, which is written by I think his name's Ed Holwell, but it's essentially about, because ADHD, which is I guess the technical name now, but it gets such a bad rap, and people it's seen as a negative. But in this book he kind of talks about all the positives that come from it, because ADHD brains, from what I know, the little I know about it, is it can be a real superpower, which it clearly can be for you, like, because it's like you point someone with ADHD in the right direction and they're the most efficient, most productive, like incredible people. But it sounds like it's why it's so in school, if you're like having to do geography and sit there, it's like absolute hell. It's impossible.
Geography was the class. You wouldn't let me come into the classroom. So I'd just sit out on the deck of the classroom. But it's so true. Like if people would speak to me, I just like it's something I don't care about. Still happens to this day. Especially in classrooms. I couldn't want to be somewhere less.
Yep.
You know, like I can't retain information unless I care about it. Yep. Which is the bad part. That's the bad part. But I do genuinely believe I'm so happy that I have it for other reasons. You know.
I think that's so nice to hear, because you've clearly like found the thing that you love doing, and so you can switch into gear.
Well, case in point, like when someone if you point in the right direction, just look out. It's unbelievable what you've done.
Yeah.
How did it feel when you were? Because looking at you and the person you are now and the way you carry yourself, it would have seemed from the outside to me that you didn't really care. How did it feel getting not allowed into class and kicked out and passed on by so many teachers and adults as a teenager?
I didn't care, but I didn't want to be a bad kid.
Yeah.
And I would really not want my parents to know I was a bad kid. They're not even strict. They come to a lot of principals' offices. But I just wouldn't want him to know. And it wasn't, you feel left out for sure. You don't feel good when your mates are in there. And when you get to the point of being such a smart ass to the point where you're affecting your mates, that's when I was conscious enough to know I'm an idiot. Like I'm just actually trying to make everyone laugh so hard that I'm ruining their education. That sucked. That was horrible. But they just moved me down to the dumber classes. Luckily, where all my other colleagues were, where I could just be a zoo animal all day and no one would say anything.
I feel like it's clear my brain works at a much slower pace to yours, and there's so many things you've been saying that I want to go back into, but I'm conscious of like being really kind of non sequitur here and
I
jumping
don't.
around.
Get rid of that sequiturs. Get rid of them.
When you were talking about it was in Canada when you had that sort of disassociation thing and coming back from that, can you remember the first moment where you started to feel like yourself again?
Yes, I do. And it was, oh my God, I remember it so clearly. We stayed together, the girlfriend and I at the time. We stayed together from that moment. So that was at New Year's 17 maybe. And then we stayed together for 9 months and I didn't drink once. And we're just trying to make it work. And that was when I needed a lot more validation. I was like, oh, that feeling when you're like, oh, if I let him go, I mightn't find anyone else as good. And I knew I was in a really toxic relationship where we still had a lot of fun. We still had really good times, but I knew deep down it was really bad for me. I was not in a good place. And we ended it about 9 months later. I think I had emotionally completed the relationship so long ago. Like it was over in my mind so long ago, even though I still probably loved her, but like I had dealt with that trauma so long ago that when she left, I had nothing. I didn't feel anything. I only felt relief, but I didn't want to let myself feel relief. I wanted to feel bad. I wanted to cry and feel guilty, even though, looking back, I definitely wasn't. And when she left, after a day or 2 days, I'd go to work and, everyone had heard the news. We've been together for 3 years. Oh no, like trying to like support me and whatever. And all I wanted to do was be sad. But deep down, I was so happy. I was so happy. It'd been like I'd gotten let out of prison, or I don't have to keep pretending and trying to make someone happy that's not happy themselves. And I thought I was really messed up, but then I started realizing I wasn't. And I remember being in the kitchen at work, and the girls come up to me, and I was by myself, and I was like singing and dancing. This is like day 3, and I was like, I was so angry at myself for doing that because I wanted to be sad. And how bad is it? Like I'm trying to tell myself to feel these certain things when really I'm just so relieved and happy and like thrilled, and obviously it's a really sad moment to let that go, like such a good moment of life. But deep down, I was just like, I was free and I was happy. And the girl's like, wow, what? I haven't seen you like this for bloody years. And I'm like, oh, no, like try to play it down, And I think that was the moment where my life just got so much better. And I think that's so important if anyone is listening, like if you're in a state where it's not good, but you're staying together to be safe, that changed my whole life. Like it really did. It changed my whole life because I was scared of not finding that person again, because I was like, oh, we have fun most of the time. She's pretty, like we get along, but like deep down, I know you're not right for me. I'm not right for you. Like this is really unhealthy. And I was scared, but the letting that go, which was so hard because I didn't know I'd find anyone else. Like you just think the worst things. You think you're in this little box where no one else lives. And then when we split, and after that, I was just like a new human. Hey, I've never felt like that. I like completely reborn.
How old were you when this happened?
I was like 24.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was, like 6 years ago probably. And I remember my friends Bill and Dom came over to see me while I was still with her. They say now, they're like, dude, that was the weirdest we've ever seen you. Like you just wasn't you. And then Falcon and my dad came over together about 2 months after when we had broken up. And they're like, I've never seen you so happy. So that was coming from their perspective as well,
Yeah.
And so it was like the best thing that's ever happened.
Awesome.
But I needed all that thing. I feel like without those dark times, I'm so happy. Like obviously, like you could look back and say, oh, there are regrets. I wish they didn't happen. And that was the darkest time of my life for certain, was when I went through that phase of like depersonalization and anxiety and not knowing what it was and feeling so alone and just scared shitless for so long. But without that, I would not be doing this today. Like that made me give up like, just things I don't want to do. And like, because that happened, I had to just get so hooked into snowboarding. I end up going from one sponsor to like 6 sponsors. And from there we started making videos and like, it just all stemmed from that moment. So that was like such a nice way to bright way to look at that moment, because it was such a scary time in my life. But without that happening, I would not be sitting in this chair today. Like not a chance.
Absolutely. Beautifully said. When you were describing your panic attacks before, you did it so generously and with so much attention that it sort of brought me into a moment of, it was quite panic inducing, because I could see that you were right in it when you were talking about it. I feel like I need to ask, do you do breathing techniques or anything like that? Have you been exposed to them for panic attacks?
I have, and I don't do enough. I did box breathing for a while, where it's like 4 in, hold for 4, 4 out, hold for 4.
Did they help?
It does a lot. And I was doing breath work kind of recently, but it helps so much. And the another thing that helps is obviously routine, which I have none of. That helps a lot. Just not waking up on your phone, that helps for me and stuff. But in the moment breathing of panic attacks, for me, for some reason, the bigger breaths I took, I just got more scared. So, I just wanted to distract myself, which is like, you just got to, but now I'm different. Like now I would sit in it and just be like, it's fine. Like come hit me, blah, blah, blah. It's fine. Just surrender, which is the best way because it makes it pass quicker in my experience.
Yeah. Okay.
But obviously big, deep breathing in the nose, out the mouth probably is the best thing.
That's what worked for me. Yeah.
Did it? Yeah. Like just as long as you can in and out.
Doing, it's sort of like box breathing. It was like breathe in for 1, out for 2, in for 2, out for 3. In for 4, out for 5, all the way up to 10 and then back again. Kind of like a pyramid. Yeah. Where you're always breathing out 1 second longer than you're breathing in.
I wonder if that's to just take your mind off. Someone made that technique up just to distract you.
Could have been anything.
Yeah. But it does work. I think if you breathe in any situation when you're stressed or anxious, you're guaranteed to take your mind off the situation.
Absolutely.
And run more oxygen through,
We did a Bridge and I, and Ryan, you've done it now, this mental health training with an amazing woman, Maria Roberta, who we also had as a guest last week. And she said that the latest research for there's breathing can reset your vagus nerve. And the latest research is that when you were having your proper cry, and when you see a baby proper cry, there's that thing that they do at the end when you try and gather yourself where you go at the very end.
Yeah.
Apparently that's the number one way to reset your...
Really?
Yeah. Vagus nerve.
2 sharp breaths in.
2 sharps in and then out.
Really?
And it will kind of reset your thing.
Huberman Man talked about that.
Yeah. How good's crying?
It's the best.
Mate, we would fucking love to get you crying. To be able to clip that up would be really helpful for us.
If I don't have 3 grown men staring at me, I probably would have. And some cameras and a shiny light. Yeah. But no, crying is amazing.
That's the best.
When it happens, Jesus.
Yeah.
Can I ask you about your friendship with Falcon? What does he mean to you? You've said before you love him, but what does he actually really mean to you?
Yeah, it's a funny relationship because I don't know anyone that we live together. We have lived together for 5 years. We go to the gym together. We surf together. We go to cafes together. We go to work together every day, and we don't ever leave each other's side every day, 7 days a week almost. I think we added up that we had 5 days apart in 3 years consecutively. Right. We had never done more than 5 days apart. And that's just wild. You don't even do that with your partner. You got to work for 8 hours and, you go on the old golf trip with the lads or whatever. And the amazing is 99%. And then there's the 1% that's really tough and it challenges us, We're such best friends. We know each other so well. And it's tough because we're business partners and we know each other so well. I know what he's thinking when he doesn't have to say a word. I know exactly what he's thinking.
What's he thinking right now?
Right now, he's probably scrolling on Instagram thinking, when the fuck are they going to be finished this podcast? So I can have some lunch so he can see me again. No, but if you know what I mean? It's like twins almost. We just know each other so well. And then it's the downfall of that is that really actually gets me really upset is when there's moments where the things we used to laugh at each other, we don't do anymore, as much. When we first started, he's such a weirdo and so fucking beautiful and amazing. And he's just the kindest person and the nicest, funniest person ever. And, he thought I was I'm sure he still does, but I'd make him laugh in certain ways. He'd make me laugh in certain ways. And now when he does that, it's just it's like a blank wall. We're just so accustomed to each other. And it can make you really upset because that pure friendship of just being idiots all the time does need a lot more work to maintain that. And I've had to maintain in the relationship the dad boss role. And he knows that. He'll say that. We talk about it all the time. And he gets to be, we've gone on a Zoom call and I'm just more blunt and honest. And I'm not scared of confrontation at all. And he hates it. He hates confrontation because he's so beautiful and nice, which is fine. But it's just with business, I have to take that role. you know, which you shouldn't have to do in a friendship most of the time because we're like married and trying to be friends and business partners. I have to have that role, you know. And then I remember him saying once on our podcast, we're in a stage where we're just like clashing a little bit, you know, and a question came up and they're like, oh, what traits, something about traits with each other. And Falcon said about me, like blunt, rude, too honest, and a few other things that really fucking rocked me like hard because then I said he was just like kind, funny, beautiful. And there is things that piss me off about him for sure, like that just a little niggly things. But when he said it, that means that's what my best friend in the world that I work with thinks about me. Like that is so fucking heavy. Like it fully rocked me. And he's never seen me like, I always hold myself together pretty well and I'm pretty like stern about things. Even though I love getting vulnerable and deep. But we went home that day and I was sitting in the car out the front just sobbing. Like he was inside and I was just bawling my eyes out. I was like, I just feel like my best friend doesn't even think I'm funny anymore. He doesn't like me. Like we've gotten so close that we're actually so far apart. And I was like, it shakes me a lot. And I was in my room that afternoon and he come in to ask me a question and I was just honestly like bawling my eyes out. Like I couldn't even talk to him. And he's like, dude, what are you doing? What's wrong? Like he thought it was awful. He had no idea. Yeah. And I was just like, I couldn't, you know, when you're sobbing so bad, you can't even talk. I was like that. And he's like, and I was like, and I explained the whole thing. I was like, you know, I just feel like I just have to put on this front all the time, like where I'm like the tough guy and like I've got to like do these things and you get to just get away with being the happy guy that everyone loves and behind the scenes and like, and that's why I feel like I'm this person and like you don't think I'm funny anymore. Like it's just so upsetting and I couldn't even talk to him. I was crying so much and then he was just like, he just went like he saw a ghost. He's like, who the hell is this guy? Like he was probably very, very surprised and pleased that I'm human. Like I'm not this blunt, honest, like rude guy.
But also like from the very little I know about ADHD is rejection sensitivity dysphoria, which is essentially like you're hypersensitive to any form of rejection. To who like a neurotypical person will be like, oh, it's okay, I know he loves me. But maybe that could be part of it as well.
For sure, definitely. And I think I still knew that, but and you say that all the time because we have little scuffles all the time. But I think it was to that point where I knew. I was like, I'm not even being delusional. Like I know that I have probably. This is so. I don't know. It just made me so sad that we're so close. That we're almost like it's impressive. Like it's crazy how much of best friends we are. Best friends. Like I don't think, and I could do this with any of my mates. I think it works so well because we have that balance. Like I am this person and you are this person, and we meet in the middle. We have different humor, and we get along 99% of the time. We're like we fucking love each other so much. But I think, at the same time, it's so amazing. We know how amazing we are together, like how well we work together. But yeah,
how do you? Sorry to get granular here, but I'm interested because I think it'd be really helpful for guys to hear. How do you work part? So, you get to that moment where you're a mess. He's gone white and doesn't quite know what to do with it. What happens next? How do you guys work through that?
To get to that point's the hardest bit.
Yeah.
When you're there, I think it's probably easy to talk through it because you're so open. At that point, I guess, you know, you just like, you let it all out. Yeah. The best thing to do is let it all out, get it all. The best thing always is obviously to talk about it, but it is so hard. Like we are so close. Like you guys would know, like we are best friends and the hardest thing to do is just confront the issues. You know, even the worst thing is the little issues, they build up over 2 months to this big fucking ginormous issue when you're resenting and you're holding all this anger back and you're like, oh, and then you have 2 good days and you're like, oh, we're fine. And then it comes back the third day and you're like, oh God, we should have talked about it. So I think getting to that point is the hardest. And I struggle with still, and Falcon does too, because we know, we're sitting in the car and we know we know we're angry at each other, but I feel like we just don't talk about it enough, you know?
You said we love each other so much. I hope this isn't a personal question to ask. Do you ever tell each other?
Why don't you marry each other?
Yeah. Do you ever say that to each other?
That is just a little fun fact. That is, if you type in "are the inspired unemployed" on Google, the first thing that pops up is gay, and the second is a couple.
Really?
Yeah, people genuinely think that we're a couple.
Yeah,
which we may as well be.
Do you ever say it to each other?
We do, yeah. We do.
That's awesome.
We do a lot. We have our friend group is, and you we know this because everyone that comes into our friend group says the same thing. Like if it's girlfriends or just acquaintances, they're like, whoa, like we are so vulnerable and open and deep. We have therapy sessions pretty much every day. We'll just sit down and just talk about everything and deep stuff. And but we probably don't do it enough, if I'm being honest. Like, because you can say I love you, like love you, brother, and see you're on your way. That's not really.
That's not the real thing.
That's not the real thing, you know. And we know that, but it's hard. It is. How hard is it just to tell? I mean, if I had a near car crash when I left this podcast room, I would tell Falcon, dude, I'm so lucky to have you. Like, thank you so much. How easy is that to say that? And I just wouldn't do it, you know? Like most people you just avoid that. What is it? Is it your ego just won't let you say those things like in a normal situation?
I'm dipping my because I'm a pretty vulnerable person, but I'm dipping my toe into the water of doing it with my male friends more.
Yeah.
And it's nerve-wracking. It's fucking terrible. I don't know why, because maybe it's because it's a new development in our relationship. I've got one friend that we catch up a lot, and he said it once to me, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to say that back now to him. And it felt really good. But then there are friends who I've been mates with for 20 years who we've never said it. And I would feel really weird saying it to them.
I know, because you're worried about being judged, probably.
Yeah, and it's just not in the dialogue that we have. But it's
Josh has gone all soft on us.
yeah. But it's like, it would be pretty obvious to them that I'm like, they know who I am.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be that weird coming from me. I guess I'm worried that if I say I love you to a mate of mine and how great they are, it's going to be like, oh, it's left out there in the middle, and you're like, oh shit. It's just like saying it to them.
You know,
it's going for a kiss.
Like a fun experiment, which we went through a bit of a phase of doing this for a while, is looking at your mate and saying, I'm in love with you.
That's funny.
Because it's actually not too dissimilar, but it's
could go wrong.
Yeah, like, mate, I'm so in love with you. Like, to you, you know.
It was for quite a while. Ryan's sign off from just returning to go, I'm in love with you.
That's right.
Well, you can't get deep.
Yeah, mate. I'm so in love. I'm so in love with you, Hugh. I'm so in love with you, Josh. And Jack, we're getting there. We're getting there.
One day. Outside.
Yeah. Wow. Can I just ask, just while we're on Falcon talking about that friendship, you guys started as such close friends, and I know you like for years like going traveling, going to festivals, and just like purely friends with no responsibilities, no, for want of a better term, like burdens or like, no accountability for a business or anything like that. And then Inspired Unemployed kicked off, and that started going really well. And now, obviously, as you were saying before, like there are times where you get really, like the anxiety kicks in and you feel really overwhelmed. And maybe that results in you and Falcon having, some sort of issue in micro ways. But do you ever sort of think, as much as you no doubt appreciate everything you've got, with your work stuff, do you ever think, I just wish it would all go away so I could just like be friends and we can like go to Amsterdam together?
Yeah, sometimes 100%. Yeah, I mean that would you do. You're like, I just wish we could have all this, but press the reset button of when we were at the very start of it and feel the same way.
I just got tingles.
We aren't actually bad. Like we just laugh the whole way here on the plane.
Yeah.
But it's really hard. Any relationship, right? Like you need to maintain it and work on it non-stop. And there's moments where you don't work on it and you let it go and you just want to avoid it. All those emotions and anger build up. You just want to run away to the forest by yourself and just stay there for a week and hopefully it goes away, but it never will. So this is me calling myself out to talk to Falcon more about it when I leave and tell him I love him.
Yeah.
Wow. So great to have you in here, Jack. I said you at the start, you are the first guest in 5 years I've waited out the front for like an excited kid. When you're a kid and like friends are coming over, you go wait at the front.
I'm very happy because I was properly lost. I was about to walk into a house, the terrace house across the road. I thought that was the location, so I was just about to walk straight in.
Yeah, and I was standing in the middle of the road waving.
Yeah, looking like you're out the front of a mechanic's too. I'm like, who the hell is this dude? Turning his hat around.
Tony Hawk's getting his bike fixed.
Oh, it has not disappointed. It's been so incredible to chat to you. And I guess, I mean, we just have to say that the example that you set to young people around vulnerability and being authentic is just, the world is crying out for it, and you're doing it on a scale like no one else. So congratulations. We're in awe of you and the boys and everything that you've done. And thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me on. Means a lot. Pleasure. Been waiting for this. Thank you.
Unreal.
We've never clapped either.